everyone hates Keir Starmer, and it looks like his party are hating him as well now. I think it's because they got a comb over and he talked through his doze, probably worn his mouth out.
Jim Davidson's live outburst on Keir Starmer and Tommy Robinson leaves viewers stunned. All right, listen closely, because what unfolded tonight wasn't just another celebrity rant, and it wasn't just another political argument. This was one of those moments where the room goes quiet, the chat freezes, and you suddenly realize something real is happening right in front of you. Because Jim Davidson, the comedian who rarely holds back, went live. And what he unleashed about Keir Starmer and Tommy Robinson left people staring at their screens, asking themselves, did he really just say that? You're not going to believe how quickly this spiraled. It started like any other live stream, casual, loose, a bit of humor. But then, something shifted. You could hear it in his voice. That drop in tone. That tightening of frustration. You know that moment when a public figure stops performing and starts telling you exactly how they feel? Yeah, that moment. That's when Davidson dove headfirst into the tension surrounding conversations about Keir Starmer, leadership, public trust, and the ongoing controversies that orbit Tommy Robinson. And the way he connected all of it, live, raw, unfiltered, people weren't ready for it. Here's what triggered the explosion. Jim Davidson has always been outspoken, sometimes to the point where broadcasters distance themselves, but tonight, his frustration wasn't just with politics. It was with the climate. The atmosphere. The way conversations in the UK have become a battlefield where people don't just disagree, they go for the jugular. He started by pointing at what he sees as a political disconnect. He said Britain feels upside down, that political conversations have turned into shouting matches, and that the moment you mention certain public figures, whether it's Keir Starmer, whether it's Tommy Robinson, the temperature in the room jumps 20 degrees. And he didn't hold back on how he sees the public reacting. People are fed up. He said, fed up with being told what to think, fed up with being lectured, fed up with being divided into categories. Chat messages started flying. Some cheering him on. Others warning him to be careful. One viewer typed, "This is the first time I've heard someone say what we're all thinking." But the turning point, the moment the live stream flipped into something explosive, was when he connected Starmer and Robinson not as allies, not as enemies, not as opponents on the same stage, but as symbols of a wider cultural fracture. He made it clear he wasn't taking sides between them. In fact, he criticized both. His message was simple. Two names, two completely different audiences, and both sides feel like they're not being heard. That line hit like a punch. As the rant continued, Davidson spoke about how the media amplifies conflict. Not facts, not dialogue, conflict. He argued that the mention of Robinson creates one type of firestorm, and the mention of Starmer lights a completely different one, and somehow, both leave ordinary people confused, frustrated, and stuck in the middle. One political analyst watching the stream later told a small radio outlet, "What Davidson tapped into is the emotional exhaustion in the UK. People aren't just disagreeing, they're tired. They want clarity. They want honesty." And then came the part viewers kept replaying. Davidson leaned forward, slowed down his voice, and said, "No one trusts anything anymore. Not the headlines, not the statements, not the explanations. Everything feels staged." You could hear the silence. Even the chat paused, a rare moment on a live broadcast. He didn't claim to have evidence of wrongdoing. He didn't accuse anyone of anything illegal. He talked about perceptions, the cracks in public confidence, the growing fear that voices outside the political mainstream are dismissed, and the growing suspicion from the other side that politics has become too reactive to outrage instead of grounded leadership. People across social media reacted instantly. One viewer tweeted, "This is the most honest I've ever heard Jim Davidson. You can hear the frustration of a whole generation." Another commented, "Every time Tommy Robinson's name comes up, the internet explodes. Every time Keir Starmer speaks, half the country shrugs and the other half argues. He's right, no one knows what to believe anymore." A third wrote, "This isn't about choosing a side. This is about noticing the mess we're all in." And that was the tone across the board. Not anger, not cheering, just exhaustion. Davidson ended the live stream with a line that people are now quoting everywhere. He said, "Until we learn to talk to each other again, everything will look like a scandal, even when it isn't." And that, more than the rant, more than the frustration is what resonated with viewers. Because in a UK climate filled with online debates, political division, identity arguments, and media noise, his final message landed with surprising clarity. It wasn't about Starmer or Robinson. It wasn't even about himself. It was about the public. About a country that's struggling to find common ground. A country where the loudest voices drown out the reasonable ones. A country where the word scandal gets thrown around so much that no one knows what's real anymore. A journalist from an independent digital outlet summed it up perfectly, saying, "Davidson didn't expose a scandal tonight. He exposed the atmosphere that creates them." So what happens next? Well, that depends on how Britain chooses to respond to voices like his. Do people brush it off as just another rant? Do political leaders take note of the public frustration he articulated? Does it spark conversation, or does it deepen divisions? Right now, the reaction is still unfolding. People are analyzing clips, arguing online, stitching the most dramatic moments, and debating whether he went too far, or didn't go far enough. But one thing is certain: this wasn't just entertainment. It was a mirror, held up to a country still trying to understand itself. And the real question now is this. If one live stream rant can capture the public mood this intensely, what does that say about everything happening beneath the surface? And more importantly, if this is only the beginning, how much deeper does the conversation go from here?